Hey, Motormind here. Just do another review on Scotty Kilmer repair video. So let's just start here.
Rev up your engine!
This is the burnouts in the car that's burning his. But
2008 Corolla, first son to drive around in, and we're going to check it out. He says it starts hard when it's cold, but it's okay when it's warmed up. I know nothing about this car. He knows nothing. He just bought it. So let's start to figure why doesn't it start up right away. So we'll open the hood, check to see if anything obvious is worn out. We'll start with air filter. You wouldn't believe how many times I found cars are running bad because the air filters were off.
now let's check air filter first thing. But one thing I would have probably done, and most mechanics should do, was just plug in the diagnostic tool, see if there's any stored codes or anything like that. Any codes just come up. Not always. Check engine light's not always on. Is there codes? And you just checked a bit of live data. You'd be surprised how much a 5-minute check of live data, having a little look over, you can kind of see.
But in this case, perfectly clean, nothing wrong with it. So what about spark plugs? This has well over 100,000 miles. We'll check them. So we'll take the 10mm covers off. These dumb beauty covers, they drive me nuts. Get them all the way off.
So I was going on both the covers, but they're there because it helps the engine stay quieter and customers like it.
Number one spark plug. We gotta take the 10mm bolt off the ignition coil, squeeze this so the electrical contact comes off, and pull it off. Then we get a socket, stick it in, and take out the spark plug. Out it comes. And as you can see, baby got a lot of crud on it. It's flat, worn out.
It definitely is worn out.
But when you look closely, it's covered with burnt stuff. That's burnt oil.
It's not burnt oil. That's more like a carbon buildup because the spark plug's been running a bit cold, and it's been and because as you can see, electrode's quite worn out. So it's just been running a bit cold, and I wouldn't say it's more oil. Usually, oil would be a lot more on your on this part here, and also you look a bit wet. That's quite dry. You see little bits and stuff. That's unburnt fuel. That's carbon buildup. That's not oil.
Engine burns oil. This was not a good choice for the customer. Maybe it'll last a while, but the engine's burning oil the previous owners did not take care of. So we're going to put new spark plugs in. If that makes it start cold, great, fantastic.
Also, if your spark plugs weren't like that, which means the coil unplugged, the coils are working harder, I would check the coils because they could be burnt out as well.
Not, odds are just going to have to live with that as long as it runs.
Or the coils could be weak.
A worn out engine, when it's cold, will always start up hard, but then when it's warmed up, it'll start up okay. So let's pray the spark plug's fixed. So we're going to put new spark plugs in, but this is a great...
That's not always the case. Usually if a vehicle's been sitting, actually all the oil is down, so the oil's not going to be, it's not going to be in the intake or in the combustion chamber. It's more after the car's been running for a while. So first cold start, unless you have seals on the intake, on the valves, they're leaking down. In which case then it's not so much the engine is worn, it's just the seals a bit worn out and stuff like that. And that's a bit more of a cheaper fix. He keeps saying that the rings are worn, and that's not exactly the case. Rings wouldn't be on cold start, except unless you got low compression. But oil rings don't have anything to do with compression.
You only remember one thing when you're buying a used car. Take out at least one spark plug.
Now here's the thing. How many people do you know, or dealerships, will let you actually start taking things off of a car? I'm not being funny, I've never been in a dealership that somebody's looking at a car, and I've bought several used cars. I've gone, hold on, wait a minute, I'm going to get some tools, I'm going to start ripping parts off this vehicle because I want to check it out. You know, they tell you if you can take a hike, take off. No, not happening. Anything. Also, I've sold several vehicles, and it's out there. You can start it up, you can run it. Somebody pulls the tools out, say, I'm going to start pulling some spark plugs and stuff. I'll tell you, freaking touch my car, and I'm going to knock your teeth out. Because you don't know, some random person start pulling one off, they pull the plug, they break it, they go, oops, sorry, okay, well, I don't want the car. Now you got to throw a set of spark plugs in this. Maybe they've dropped some porcelain down the spark plug hole, or they've done something else. No, never, ever. I've never known anywhere that would let you start taking parts off a vehicle to look at it and inspect it. Or anybody who's selling a vehicle, they'll let you start taking parts off. So Scotty's talking crap. It's not going to happen. Nobody's ever going to do that. If you're buying a vehicle, start it up, listen to it. If you're not sure, you take it to a mechanic, or if you do the dealership or a used car dealer, then you can ask them to have a mechanic check it out. But like I said, take it to the dealership. They could be a bit more biased. You can take it to your own mechanic if they're up for that. But that's only you gotta ask. If the person doesn't want you to, it's their car. They don't want your mechanic looking at it. It's their prerogative. You take a chance. You buy any used car, you're taking a chance.
With burnt oil pieces, carbon.
Obviously, all the customers obviously bought this car with a hard start because if they didn't get in and start it and they just looked at the car and bought it, well then they're a dumbass. But look, if they started it and knew it had a hard start, then they knew they bought a vehicle with a problem.
Don't buy the car. It means the engine's burning oil. Why mess with it? Somebody else's problem. Don't make it yours. Now this is a Toyota Corolla. They can run years and years still burning oil. You'll
Most cars
add
can.
oil, change the spark plugs. Eventually, you might have to change the catalytic converter. But they can still run. Only you don't want to get involved in that in the first place. So now we'll change out the 4 spark plugs. You just put them in so they're snug. Once you get them snug, get them tight. Then a little bit of turn. That's snug.
Actually, that was a bit over torqued there. Look at the size of the wrench he's using. He's using a half-inch long half-inch ratchet. That's probably a bit over torqued there. You do that a bit too much, you're gonna strip the threads, which does happen. I've seen it happen. Guys over torquing spark plugs, pull the threads out, and that's then replacing the head. So you probably went overkill with the size of his ratchet there.
First change all 4. Then we'll see what shape the engine is. I
See,
think
that's a long half-inch.
only some of them. Well, it looks like it's going to be all of them. The second one's burning a lot of oil too. Bad news. And
That's not a lot of
the
oil.
third one and the fourth one. Previous owner or owners of this car did not change the oil frequently enough. Now the engine's worn. The new plug should make it run better. Just going to have to add oil as it burns and see how long it lasts.
If the engine is that worn from the plug from the oil not being changed, then you probably got a compression issue, and plugs are going to just make not a blind bit of difference.
It starts up when it's cold.
Now look at that. See, still a hard start. Did you check the coils? No. Did the coils could be burnt out or weak? Yes. But Scotty didn't even bother to check that, nor did he check to see any other things. Is mass airflow? Is it worn? Is it got stuff inside the intake? And there's other things. What's this battery like? Oof.
Well, it starts up better than it did, but you can hear the engine clacking.
That's better. It's probably because the plugs are new, but you didn't check the coils? Worn out plugs?
That shows it's worn internally.
How about checking the oil, Scotty? He didn't check the oil. If you think it's burning oil, I didn't see him pull up dipstick, check and see. If it's making a little bit of noise, then is the oil dirty? Is the oil low? Or is it still slightly misfiring because the coils are worn out? It's too many questions. But he's just assuming. He's just done diagnostics. He's guessed on this vehicle again. If you look at it, all he's done is just guessed, do some plugs at it. Okay, I'm gonna call that a fix. Hasn't looked at anything else.
I would check the plugs, listen to the engine. I would have said don't buy it, especially not for the $3,000 he paid. If you wanted to buy it for $1,000, go ahead. But 3 is too much for a car with all this wear. And I had just begun to check into it. I might find a lot of other things wrong. I'll take it for a quick spin, start it up again.
161,000 miles on it.
Already started up. And as we drive down the road,
And look at that. No, please don't tell me he's driving this with dirty gloves on. He's just worked on a vehicle and he's not driving a customer's car with dirty gloves on. Should we have a little look?
Oh, hearing something that's not good.
Oh, I'm not showing his gloves now.
Hear that roaring noise. We'll go faster and you'll hear it better.
He's wearing dirty gloves.
Yeah, whoop.
I mean, funny, but one, he's wearing dirty gloves in the customer's car, which is a big no-no. If it was my car, I'd be having a right freaking go at him because that's just, now he's getting oil and dirt and stuff like that. You don't. You take the gloves off, change them out, but you can see there's dirty gloves too. He's also saying that it's got a worn, wheel bearing noise, which you can hear. And he's right on that. Yeah, by all means.
Woo-woo.
Yeah.
That means the front wheel bearings are going out too.
Or it could be the brakes rubbing. I checked the brakes. I check a few things. It does kind of sound like rubbing. Something else is rubbing. I'd check it. Didn't see him jack it up though, so.
The front wheel drive car. Pretty expensive job. No, as I drive
Not really.
around, I could tell both front wheel bearings are worn. It's a very expensive job, but I've seen people drive these things for years that way. I would hold off on that until it has actual play, and then it doesn't steer.
Okay, so now he's advising that, okay, so he thinks his vehicle has 2 front wheel bearings that weren't. So he's got 2 front wheel bearings. He's advising to leave it until it has play. So he's advising, okay, look, you have worn wheel bearings, but let's wait until the wheel bearings are fully collapsed, and then we'll look at changing them. Like, are you an idiot? Like, all you do is now you're going to have it where, so that it's completely destroyed, and most likely eaten into the hub. So now we have to do the wheel bearings, we also got to change the hub. Because if they're that bad, then I've seen it where they've just destroyed the hub because it's just caught out of race and start spinning out of race, and it's just eating its way into the aluminum hub, which is a lot more expensive than just a couple wheel bearings, which isn't that expensive a job.
Right, it's steering perfectly fine, and with all the things that are wrong with this car, I wouldn't throw that kind of money into it now. I might even try to sell it on and get rid of it if I was the person who purchased it.
Oh, did you see that again?
And then it doesn't steer right. It's steering perfectly fine. And with all the things,
So now, yes.
I can tell both front wheel bearings at once.
Let's listen to this here again.
It's a very expensive job, but I've seen people drive these things for years that way. I would hold off on that until it has actual play, and then it doesn't steer right. It's steering.
Yeah, so he's saying not only does it have actual play, but also that it's compromised. It's that bad that the vehicle isn't steering right, which means that it's throwing your camber off, and it's also when you steer, it's got so much play that it's the wheels are moving. Yeah, that's dangerous. That's so dangerous. Scotty, for a man who thinks has been doing this for how many years, that's absolute freaking terrible, horrible advice. I'd never ever do that. You're letting yourself liable to a lawsuit right there, stupid man. No, that's wrong. Right there, you should say to the customer, look, you need 1 or 2 wheel bearings here. Put it up in the air, spin them up, find which one's collapsed, which one's gone, and advise you need to have them done right away. If you can hear them that bad on the video, that's bad. That's very bad. Those bearings are gone and junk, and if they're that bad where they're Brunelling, and that's where metal's starting to transfer from one to the other, from the bearing from the races onto the pins and stuff like that, they'll eat themselves up very, very, very quickly. So no, that's dangerous, horrible advice. I'm absolutely freaking shocked that man he'd even say this for somebody like that. That's terrible. No.
Perfectly fine. And with all the things that are wrong with this car, I wouldn't throw that kind of money into
I'd do the freaking wheel bearings.
Might even try to sell it on and get rid of it.
Sell it on, right? So you can sell something dangerous to somebody else. Yeah, good job.
It'll start and run pretty good. The AC blows cold. Might not be the
Who cares about
bad
AC?
idea to get rid of this thing. Now, if you've learned 2 things from this video, the first one is pull out a spark plug on any used car you're gonna buy.
And nobody's ever gonna let you pull a spark plug, or you can't pull anything off of a vehicle like that. Start taking tools to a vehicle you haven't bought yet. No.
And if it's covered with burnt carbon, don't buy the car.
Carbon is unburnt fuel.
Buy the car, then bring it to a mechanic like me to check out after you've already purchased the thing. That's the old
Take it to a better
saying,
mechanic
don't
than him.
put the cart before the horse. Horses are great at pulling carts when you harness them up, but they're no good at pushing them from the back. You do things backwards, bad things can happen. And that's why I tell people always have a real mechanic like myself.
No, not like him. A real mechanic is not like Scotty, but an actual real mechanic who actually knows what he's doing. I'm sorry, but some advice this man gives is it's bordering on dangerous. That's just, if you didn't know any better and you just trusted him, he's giving you dangerous advice. No.
Used car before you buy. There are too many things that can go wrong.
Yeah, by all means, take it to a mechanic. I've done that in the past when I didn't have access.
Don't say, oh, I'm not going to pay the mechanic $100. I can check it out myself.
Hey, some backroom mechanics are good, better than he is.
It can save you from nightmares. And at the least, it can save you from paying too much. Okay, paid $3 grand for this thing, right? I would have given maybe $1,000 for it, realizing that it's going to need all this work in the future. It burns oil, yada yada. But it is a Corolla.
I haven't seen a blue smoke, so.
Years and years. But $3,000 for an engine that burns oil, front wheel bearings need replacing. We know the catalytic converter is going to have carbon, and eventually that's going to need replacing. There's a lot of expense that I could see down the line with this car. So, hey, if you paid $1,000 for it, so what if you had to put a couple thousand in the next 3 or 4 years? But if you paid $3 and you had to put in, then you would have put $5,000 into a car that's worth 2 or 3 times. Now, of course,
it's the risk of buying used cars, unless they're approved used car coming to warranty.
There aren't that many honest mechanics left anymore. A lot of mechanics will check out a used car for you, and they're adding it up in their head. Let's see, in the next 4 years, I can make a couple $1,000 off this guy. I'll tell him to buy the car. I'm not that way.
A lot of mechanics, he slags off a lot of mechanics. He's saying right here, most mechanics are crooked and screw people over. That's bang of order. There's a few. There are people that do that. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It does happen quite a bit, but most mechanics, they're honest guys. They want to keep customers happy. They want customers to come back.
Actually lost customers over the years because I told them that cars were junkers because they were, and they got mad.
Well, so he's insulted people and lost customers. That just shows what a pompous ass this man really is. I mean, he obviously doesn't care. He's just insulted. He's got his own opinion. That's it. He's insulted people and obviously lost customers. Does he care? No. No fix given.
Because they bought a junker car. Hey,
in his opinion,
logical about it. I just tell the truth.
Not logical. It's just opinionated.
I remember when I was going to high school and I was a young mechanic. Father's gas station.
Yeah, mechanic. You're going to high school. You're a student.
He'd have a fish truck come by in July. They'd buy gas, right? My grandfather came up and he said, "Ooh, wait, does this truck stink?" And it did stink of dead fish. There was no arguing that, right? The guy who ran the company, he wouldn't come by anymore because he felt insulted. His truck stunk. That's the way it is. And in the case of this Toyota Corolla, it's a nice looking car,
his grandfather's more than just this car. This truck stinks of dead fish.
You know, it's a decent looking car. That's what fooled the guy into buying it.
It's a good looking car. Nothing wrong with it. Other than this needs a little bit of work.
People call them bulletproof. Well, no machine is totally bulletproof. If you don't change the oil like the previous owners on this didn't, it's going to wear the engine. I had a customer with one. He didn't change the oil thing until he had 80,000 miles on it. And I said, "Didn't you change it once?" He said, "Nah." And he said, "Hey, it ran good. I didn't care. Doesn't it burn oil?" He says, "You know, the first 65,000 miles, it didn't burn any oil. But now I got to put a quart of oil on every 1,000 miles or so." But he said, "Oil's cheap, what do I care?" Now, when it got to 110,000 miles on it, it was starting to run bad. The engine was really worn out. And he was a bit of a tactless person, being a salesman, so he sold it as a cash car to a guy. And the guy thought that it only had 15,000 miles because it was an old one when it went to 99,999, right? So he totally ripped that guy out.
So how old is the car? I mean, if it only went up to 99,000, then, all right, obviously when it hit 100,000 it went over, then it's turned over. He's talking about his fellow. We're talking a long time ago. We're talking the 80s, maybe even the 70s.
The guy figured it out later when his mechanic says, "Hey, this thing doesn't have 15,000, it's got a lot more," even though the thing was only 2 years old. He passed the problem on to somebody else, even though it was a Toyota. Everything will break down if it isn't taken care of. That's why you pay a mechanic to check it out. And I mean a real checkout. Not some guy that says, "I check him out for free," and he spends 10 minutes, drives around, says it's a good car. No. Pay a guy like me about $100.
So you charge a customer $100 to throw a set of plugs in this thing and say it's a piece of crap. Wow. Scotty. Holy crap. I think the mechanics you're talking about that, rip people off. Yeah, I'm looking at one on my phone right now.
A bunch of tests. Do computer scans. See what kind of shape the vehicle is in, and then give a true analysis of here's what's wrong, here's what's not wrong, here's what it's really worth, and go from there. Don't just buy it without a mechanic looking at it, unless you happen to be a mechanic yourself, because even a vaunted Toyota Corolla that looks as good as this one does and has freezing cold air conditioning in it can have a lot of problems in it when it gets to be really high mileage. If the previous owner or owners
161,000 is kind of high, but
experience, a lot of people with Toyotas, they're so spoiled with the cars not breaking that they never check anything. I had a customer 6 months ago, almost blew the engine up in her car. She had changed the oil in my Corolla. I changed it, like half a quart of oil came out. And I said, "Gee, you're burning oil, do you check it?" "Oh, well, I had it changed last June."
Well, it sounds like Corolla's burning oil are more common than you think. They have been changed regularly.
Toyotas need tender care every once in a while. So if you're buying a used one, don't just say, "Oh, yeah, it's a Toyota Corolla, great, I'll buy it." There are good mechanics out there, and honest ones like myself, we don't spend a nickel advertising.
Honest one, you charge somebody $100 to change a set of plugs?
So,
Crap, it's a 15-minute job.
Honest mechanic.
Okay, half an hour at most.
Who's going to tell you the truth, and not tell you to buy some used car that he's going to make
Hey,
a lot
those
of
are
money.
good cars. I used to work for him.
And have a lifetime customer, like I have for the last 52 years. So if you never want to
There, that's the end. So thanks for watching my channel. Watching Motorbine. Watch for more videos coming up. I do like to randomly pick the Scotty Kilmer because he makes a lot of videos. I'm not gonna lie, and quite honestly, I can call him out on almost all of his videos. There's a lot of videos, and I've watched a few I haven't put up just because it's just kind of silly, ridiculous stuff. But this one here, I did randomly, I just closed my eyes, went down the list, clicked on this video, and when I seen he's advising somebody to wait until the wheel bearings are completely collapsed to the point where you got that much play that's affecting your steering, and then saying, okay, now it's time to change them. I had to make a video. Sorry, just the danger of that. And I've heard him make other things. He had somebody else in another video advise this person that they're fine to drive a vehicle with the airbag light on and some of the light on, faults in the vehicle. Even, oh, you're fine to drive halfway across the country, absolutely fine. And it's like, well, hold on, the safety system's freaking compromised in his vehicle, and he couldn't be bothered to fix it. It most likely was only like a broken wire underneath the driver's seat or something like that, but he didn't even bother to look. So it's just I've seen him also advise to break the law, people to drive too fast and stuff like that. It's just I'll make more videos. There are some others I'll put up just to kind of throw some stuff in the mix. I don't want to be picking on Scotty all the time, even though it is so easy. Yeah, just click like if you like this. Subscribe to my channel, watch more, and let me know. Comment, let me know how I'm doing. If you like it, let me know. If you don't like it, well, let me know. I don't really care because I'm going to keep doing it anyways. But yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time.